This is the Songwriting Mind, a program exploring the personal depths of creativity, stories, and craft that define songwriting. In this episode, we'll hear from Tim Bulster, singer and songwriter of Tiller of the Moon. Enjoy.
I grew up near Chicago, Illinois. Growing up, there was a lot of bands in high school and stuff like that. Like there was like punk bands and stuff that we would all play in. And none of the chords made sense that we were playing. Melody was hardly in key. It didn't matter. We were just kind of like making noise to hang out with our friends and something to do on weekends. Back then, it was like we'd go to somebody's basement. We all had our instruments and just figure out what a song could sound like instrumentally. But I was always the one who went back home then with a notebook and would like figure out what the lyrics of the song would be. And so I'd have to come back and be like, I thought maybe the lyrics could be like this and the melody could be like that. It was like something that came kind of naturally to me and something I was willing to do that other people were not willing to do, you know. It was angsty for sure. It was definitely angsty. It was about not fitting in, and it was about heartbreak and feeling awkward. But I guess I write about all that stuff today too, so I just hope I'm doing a better job at it. But, you know, it was all the typical stuff a teenage kid would write about probably. After I graduated college, I lived in a small town in Illinois called Hoopeston. It was the home of the Corn Jerkers. That was the mascot of the local high school. And I was living in an apartment by myself in the cornfields, and I just had time on my hands, and I had a guitar. And I had a friend who was across the Atlantic. He was in St. Andrews, Scotland, going to school, and he had a lot of time on his hands. And so we started sending songs back and forth. Like I would send a song at night, and because of the time difference, I'd wake up in the morning and he would like email me back about my song. And he would send me a song, and I'd wake up in the morning and find his song there. And we just did that for like a year, maybe 2 years. And then, as luck would have it, we both moved back to Chicago at the exact same time. And that's when we started a band. And so a lot of the songwriting that I still feel like I'm kind of able to do today comes from like that period where it was like, hey, let's both have a song ready in a week and we'll give each other feedback. 2 weeks from now, let's have a song ready and we'll give each other feedback. I don't know. I wrote a lot of bad songs in high school, but I can remember a couple songs I was really proud of during that group where I finished it and I was like, this song is like a circle. Like it has a beginning, it has an end, everything connects, you know. I had a song called Independent of Me, which was a song about, it was like, how crazy is it that this whole world doesn't even, it just keeps going. Like I leave Chicago and I come here and everyone just keeps continuing on like I wasn't even there. And I leave here and go back to Chicago and everyone continues on like I wasn't even here. And the song was called Independent of Me, which is like how amazing everything just continues on with or without me, basically. And that was the first song I finished where I was like, whoa, I think I wrote like something decent here. And then my cousin, my friend who was in Scotland, was like, whoa, that was a pretty good song. And then I felt like I had like a standard. And then I was like, okay, now I know like what I'm shooting darts toward. Whereas before that, it was all kind of like shooting in the dark. I feel like that was the moment where I figured out like what a good song feels like. And everything below that was like a mediocre song. And I needed like the good stuff, you know. I knew what I liked about songs at that point. And I was finally able to make it happen myself, which is, I do like melody a lot. I like songs with like hooks and melody, and I felt like it was a catchy song, so there was that. And so that's like one layer. But then the next layer was I thought it had something interesting to say. I remember a friend listened to the song and said, is this song self-aware? Like he meant like, is this song aware of itself, you know, in a weird way? And that might not make any sense, but I had never heard anyone say that to describe a song before. And I remember at one point I decided, I think around that time, I was like, I'm not writing about love or relationships or anything like that. I took that off the table. And so I was like, I have to find other stuff to write about. And I think what that forced me to do is like explore themes that it forced me to come up with themes that maybe felt original to me a little bit. And so, yeah, that was a song that I think more than anything felt original. I felt like I hadn't heard this kind of song before. And it was melodic and catchy and kind of fun to sing. But there's also a thing where like, there's like a center to the song, which is kind of like the core meaning. And it felt like every verse and the bridge and everything like pointed right back to it. And so I like when I hear a song and it feels like there's like a center that holds up. There's like a foundation, and at no point do they like lose that center. I feel like if I'm listening to a song and it takes me out of it for a second, or they've lost the plot for a moment, sometimes I don't know, I gravitate towards things I think that feel complete, and that song felt complete. Usually it starts with nothing, you know. Generally I start with absolutely no concept for what it's going to be. Usually it's me strumming or playing and kind of mumbling to myself, and like the first cool phrase or line that happens to fall out of my mouth that I like, that's the strand I start pulling on. And usually I can tell right away, like, yeah, is this a rock song? Is this a folk song? Is this kind of bluesy? I don't even know what it is yet. Maybe it's kind of more of like an indie rock experimental thing, but like I like things that feel complete. And so if it feels like a Beatles-esque song, I want to make sure it sounds like a Beatles-esque song when it's done. You know, if it feels like it wants to be an indie rock song, I want it to be, I'm going to write from that perspective. So it's important to me, but generally I start with absolutely no idea what's going to happen, but I can tell pretty quick what type of song it's going to be. And that does dictate what kind of chords I pick and what kind of words I pick and the melody and things like that. This is a quieter folk song. And so, I mean, it started with finger picking, which right out of the gate told me it was going to be kind of like a John Prine, Bob Dylan kind of thing. And the first thing that came to me were like heavy lyrics, you know. The song's called God in a Bathroom Mirror. What a place, damn, what a scene. Man, you should have seen it, just Dave and me. Getting down with our head in the stars, shooting comet tails at the warp speed bar. Interplanetary space decor, science fiction drinking, just $5 at the door. Old Dave whispered to me, look who just walked in. I said, damn, I haven't seen her since, and God knows when. It got me thinking, did a Yahoo search, found her singing nightly in a New Age church. Fancy lights and reverb on, and boy, it looked like fun. Locked eyes, and what are the chances? Drank and spent the whole night dancing. Slide to the left, slide to the right. 3 hops now, it was out of sight. But come here, do you want to hear something weird? She swore she saw God in a bathroom mirror, in a truck stop dive off the 101. The Holy Ghost, the Father and the Son. All three. And she told me to fold my knees and pray, because Jesus is coming back to save. And she smiled like a woman who was heaven bound, called out and offered me another round. But it was 10-1, I was flailing drunk, should've held my tongue. Would you recognize him if he did? Would you join him if his search was not for you in your mega church? Will they demonize him again if his fight for love and peace takes him to the streets? If he gets roughed up by police, would you fight for his release? Or is it you, or from you he'd save? Got a drink thrown in my face. Sunday morning, oh, what a drag. Me, my dog Lito, and a cheap poop bag. There's a man rooting through my garbage can, but it's all slim picking, so I wave a handy. Blow smoke, nods his head. There's old junk rusting in his old truck bed, and a washed out sticker on the tailgate reads, No justice, no peace, yeah. No peace without justice. Thank you. I remember at some point realizing that, like, if a lyric was good, there was an emotional quality to it. To have an emotional quality, I felt like it had to have imagery. Like, if the person couldn't put themselves in the position and, like, look around and actually see what's happening and feel what's happening, if they couldn't see things, and, like, there's dialogue actually in a lot of my songs, like people talking to each other. And I feel like that to me is where the emotional stuff is. It's like the details of day-to-day life. So, like, the concept is cool, but once the concept is, well, honestly, the concept doesn't usually even come till later. Usually I have some imagery first, and I'm trying to figure out what the concept could be based on that imagery. Like, I think this song started off with two guys, that opening verse, what a place, damn, what a scene, man, you should have seen it, just Dave and me. And they're sitting in a bar, and they're taking shots, and it's all outer space themed, you know? And so I was like, I wanted to put myself, I could picture it. I could look around and, like, see what a kind of a cheesy outer space themed bar would look like and feel like. And these two guys who in my mind are kind of dopes sitting in this bar, like, shooting comet tails. I thought that was a drink, but maybe that's like a video game they're playing or something. And then a girl walks in. He says, hey, look who just walked in. And, like, the listener could, like, turn their head and to see who's coming through the door, you know? And it was all that kind of stuff that I felt like, to me, when I'm feeling something emotionally, I'm there. I can see it. I can hear it. I feel like I'm always the main character in the song, you know? And I feel like, you know, if you've ever been, like, standing in a bar or something and you look and someone who you have a past with or something has just walked in the door, there's, like, a rush that happens at that moment because you're going to have to deal with this person at some point, you know, whether it's good or whether it's bad. Like, this, you're going to interact with this person, and you're drinking, and so who knows what is going to come of this, good or bad. I feel like everyone's been in that situation, even if it's an old friend who you haven't talked to in a long time. Like, whoa, look who's here. It's that person. And I feel like that feeling was kind of like at the center of the song. And then I can think of people in my life who, you know, not that I wouldn't want them to walk through that door, but we've grown in separate directions. And in this song, he gets a drink thrown in his face, you know. And I can think of people where that might accidentally happen if you've had too much to drink and they're living one life and you're living another. And you can have fun for a while, but eventually things have to come to a head because you see life so differently compared to when you used to, you know? And I feel like that's kind of what was at the center of the song, like the anxiety of dealing with someone who you know you have no business getting along with, you know, and eventually something bad's gonna happen, kind of, you know? Quiets my mind. And I've never really thought about this, but if you think about, like, the character in that song is the past self, maybe, of the speaker of this song, which is like you've grown up and you're happy now, right? But there's, like, still, I don't know, you ever yearn for, like, more complicated times in your life when you're like, you were definitely less happy back then, but for some reason, like, those rose-colored glasses, you're like, yeah, but that was cool back then when I was so unhappy. And so that's kind of what this song is about. I was way down, all tangled up and played out. I was tongue-tied. Oh, I bathed in tears that I cried. Now I'm dry-eyed with a hole in the spine. that she untied. You know I might kinda miss that night from time to time. She quiets my mind. I was wasted. Boy, I lost the plot, but I chased it. I felt alright. Tear stain lost in the twilight. Now I'm dry-eyed, with a hole in the spot of the night that she untied. You know I might kinda miss that night from time to time. She quiets my mind. I am happy. Well, they say life ain't fair, but it can be. If you decide that you're okay living arms wide outside, blue sky, dry-eyed, with a hole in the spot of the night that she untied. You know I might kinda miss that night from time to time. She quiets my mind. Thank you. I have a song on my album that's coming out soon called Love Around, and the narrator of the song is like a bad dude. You know, it's not a good guy. And he's the speaker of the song, and people are going to hear this song. You know, I'm singing the words of this character, you know. And so it's weird to think that I'm also at the center of that song. But I think that also what makes a song emotional and what makes a song really good is if something in it makes you wince a little bit. Like there's something about it that you're like, I'm afraid of people hearing this. I think if you don't have some of that in your songs, you know, are you really telling any kind of truth if you're not ashamed a little bit or like embarrassed of it? So, like even that last song, what I like about it is that it's a mix. There's happiness to it, but there's also like this undertone of kind of like a nostalgic kind of like sadness to it. And both things are happening at once. And I think that everything's that way in life. Like very few things are just so purely like one way or the other. And I like it when I'm done with the song and I'm like, oh, I don't know how I feel about this song. Like, do I feel happy singing this song? Do I feel sad singing this song? And most of my songs are not one or the other. And I like it that way. Actually, when I'm at my best creatively, when I feel really good creatively, generally, I'm not abiding to any forms, you know. Like when I'm really in a good place creatively, a folk song can turn into like an electronic song like that, you know, and there's nothing stopping me from letting that happen. That's like sometimes when I'm really in a good place with these songwriting groups and we're just throwing things at the wall, you know, you just have to turn a song in. When I'm really in my element, there's nothing stopping me from taking that first finger picking song and like suddenly turning it into a punk rock song halfway through and then going back to the folk song at the end. I love that kind of stuff, actually. So it just kind of depends, but I like to surprise myself. It's like if I can stumble into something that takes the song and like smashes it on the ground and it becomes something new, that's always the best case scenario. But sometimes I'm not in that totally free creative headspace to allow that to happen. But it's best when it does, I think, you know. The beauty of the songwriting group is that like you have to sit down and make the thing happen. When I'm not under those constraints, there's a lot more like sitting and tinkering and thinking, and you know, a couple lines might take 3 days just because I'm like humming along and they're not perfect, and I put it down and go do other things, and the next day I come back and I kind of do the same thing. But it's really the same thing in the songwriting group too. Like I like starting from scratch, actually. I like starting with like nothing, you know. Sometimes I have to dig up old things that are like half finished. And if it's really good, I can still enjoy that. But nothing to me is more exciting than like sitting down right here and just start mumbling and just like hitting chords until something cool like stumbles out of my mouth, and then going from there, you know. That's when my heart starts racing, you know, when like I think I found something that's kind of cool. And then I start pulling on it. And if it starts coming easily, then it's really exciting. If it's not coming easily, then there's almost anything you'd rather do but sit there and try and finish it, you know. But you have to sometimes. I'm editing like as I'm going, you know. So I'm not, it would be a good way to do it really. But, you know, you could finish the whole thing and have it be what it is and then go back and edit. I can't move on to the next thing until what I'm doing currently has taken shape and is cool, you know? So if the first verse isn't cool yet, I might have kind of an idea for like a melody for the chorus, but like if the first verse isn't cool yet, I will sit there in the world of the first verse until it feels cool, you know? And generally that means like every line is saying something interesting, but also that it feels good, like spitting out of your mouth, you know. There's something about like the consonants and the vowels actually have to fall in the right places. And so sometimes it's like I'll take a meaningless line that feels good falling out of my mouth over the perfect like thematic line that feels clunky coming out of my mouth. Like, so it's tricky, but I think really it's like it has to feel natural coming out. And generally if it feels natural coming out, the words are good because they feel good coming out. And if the words are good, they're going to be good to hear. And sometimes that also adds up to a cool idea as well. And that's the holy trinity. That's like the perfect triangle. It's like it feels good coming out, it's saying something cool, and maybe like melodically it's also contributing something important to the song too. I said I like songs that are like both happy and sad, two things at once. This one is not that. This one is pretty much just a happy song. So I said that I refused to write songs about love and relationships for a long time. The last challenge we did, I set the goal for myself that I was only going to write love songs for the entire challenge. And actually that last one came out of that challenge, and this one did too. And I was just like, love songs they're hard to write. Sometimes happy love songs are harder than sad songs because it's just like hard to communicate. It's almost more vulnerable, I think, to talk about that kind of stuff. So anyways, the song is called To That Love of Mine. What a ripple is to water, flicker is to candlelight. What burning is to embers, shining brightest to her eyes. What feeling is to knowing, listen is to sympathize. To know her is to love her, to hold her is to hold her tight.
what life was like before her. Water is to wine, what ocean is to moon. I am to that love of mine. Like parking in the city, good love is hard to find. But like sunshine to a flower, she's so good and kind. Like morning to a songbird, look how she makes me sing. Like an eagle to the open sky, she's everything. What life was like before her, water is to wine, what ocean is to moon. I am to that love of mine. What time is to forever, sand is to stone. What light is to a hollow, she is to our home. When I feel her warmth beside me, good Lord, I sleep so well. And when I go to bed alone, good God, I sleep like hell. What life was like before her, water is to wine. And when she sat down in that coffee shop, the stars all aligned. Two strangers who were fine alone, forever intertwined. What ocean is to moon, I am to that love of mine.
Thank you. I had that experience maybe once with my band in Chicago, where I can remember sitting like on the carpet in the apartment I was living in and starting a song, and within like half an hour I had the whole thing. And those are the best songs usually, you know, the best ones happen that way. This one was kind of that way. I'm sure I labored over more than I remember, but like when you get that structure, this one, it's like analogies, you know, this is to this as this is to that and this. And at that point, it's like a puzzle. You're just kind of like, it's fun at that point. You're kind of off to the races. Like I just wrote a ton of them, and I picked all my favorite, and I plugged them in, and then that was the song, you know. It's when you find a nice structure like that, it's great. Versus like, this verse could be anything, you know. That's a little more challenging. It's fun in its own way too. But so this one was kind of that way, because I found that structure in maybe verse 1, and I was like, oh, I know what the rest of the song is going to be, basically. So there's that. That helps. I would just say get really clear about what it is about the songs you like why you like those songs. You might like a lot of different genres, but like when a song really does it for you, like try and figure out what it is about that song that's doing it for you, so that you can try and put that into your own songwriting too. But I think also if you can find someone, a friend, a group, I think what's really helpful, especially if you're on one person who you can give each other feedback and create deadlines and hold each other accountable, I think that's the biggest thing, actually. Because what would happen is he would send me a really good song, and I'd be like, ooh. Like, I haven't written a good song in like 3 weeks, and he's like sent me 2 in a row, you know? And so there's some like healthy competition that comes up, and then it inspires me the next week to come back and try harder, you know? So I would say find people. That might be the biggest thing. Find someone who wants to do it too, and get excited with them about songwriting and help each other out.
Cool. Thank you for listening to the Songwriting Mind. This interview with Tim Bulster was recorded in front of a live audience at So It Goes Coffeehouse in Coos Bay, Oregon on January 3rd, 2025. You can listen to Tiller of the Moon on all streaming platforms, and be sure to check out their upcoming album, set for release in March 2025. This podcast was produced by me, Eric Princess Dragon. If you enjoyed this episode, please follow us and share it with others. Peace.